Everybody has to find his own identity, regardless where you're from. I have like several hearts beating in me. I mean, I'm the father, I'm a German by birth, I'm a Jew by choice, and I'm an Israeli. My name is Bernd Wollschlaeger. I'm a family physician from North Miami Beach, Florida. I'm going together with my daughter Jade Wollschlaeger on the March of the Living.
We basically go to Poland for 1 week and then we continue on to Israel for the second week.
Visiting the Poland and Israel, the place of the despair and pain of Jewish people, visiting Birkenau and Auschwitz and Treblinka, and then going to Israel, visiting the places of hope and aspiration.
Bernd Wollschlaeger and his daughter Jade march alongside 10,000 other participants of this year's March of the Living. But their story is unlike the rest.
My earliest memories of growing up were that I felt immediately, when I was 6, 7 years old, that something is not right, something what my father told me about the past, and something that I experienced around me. There's a disconnect, not intellectually, a child cannot understand it intellectually, but something is not, doesn't fit.
My grandfather actually was a member of the German army. He fought during the war, during the Second World War.
Fighting for his country is one thing, but condoning the killing of civilians, which he knew that it happened, and he saw that it happened, is another thing. My father told me stories about him being that he was a famous tank commander in a war, and I didn't know what war he was talking about, and of course it was the Second World War. And for his war accomplishments as being a tank ace, he was awarded the Knight's Cross by a man called Adolf Hitler.
Introduced during World War II, the Knight's Cross was one of the highest awards a German soldier could receive. It was given for acts of bravery and heroism.
One time I went through his office and I saw the Iron Cross. I remember my brother showing me that and I was really confused, but I mean, I didn't know what it meant.
My father was, according to all his war buddies that came to visit us in our house, among them former generals and officers, he was the man. He was the leader of the pack and that they looked up to even so many years after the war. And as such, he portrayed himself, and the pictures that I saw at home of him proud in the uniform with this cross around his neck that he was still wearing for Christmas on special occasion, that of course instilled in me the notion that my father was a hero. I also found it telling that we grew up in a house, I grew up in a house that was part of German history, which I didn't know either. I found out that the portrait of the man who was hanging, that portrait of the man hanging our hallway was Count Klaus von Stauffenberg, the German colonel who tried to assassinate Adolf Hitler on the 20th of July 1944. And the irony and the twist of history was and is that I grew up in his house. This was a house that belonged to the family Stauffenberg. His widow lived upstairs. The discrepancy between my father, the hero, who followed orders, the man who was a hero in post-war Germany too, the man who resisted, that this history was under one roof. Later found out about the horrors of the Second World War, not only as it pertained to the war itself, which my father told me as his best time of his life. That was his description of the war. Learning in school later on that it was not a heroic time for Germany, it was a disaster, a catastrophe. Then I started to question my father.
I don't think I would have been able to do what he did. It's very heroic, very, I really don't even know how to put it, but basically what he did is when he was a teenager, he realized he didn't want to stand for the German identity anymore.
By questioning him, I lost respect and I lost the admiration for him, and he sank for me to a level of a common criminal. When you recognize emotionally or intellectually that something is wrong, even if it's done by a loved one, you have to have the courage to speak up. You have to stand up and go your way, because if you condone what happens, you're as guilty as the one who did it.
It was in 1972 when 11 Israeli Olympic athletes were murdered in Munich that Bernd decided enough is enough.
This notion forced Germany and young people like me to focus on what is the relevance. And my father didn't want to talk about the relevance. I mean, he was totally dead bent against it. He said, I will not talk about this. And I forced myself, or I was forced to learn about it and find my own answers. And by searching, I tried to find out what makes them, the Jews, so unique that people like my people target them or have targeted them, and what is the relevance as it pertains to German history.
So he went to the local synagogue, which was very small at that time because he was in Germany, and all the atrocities that had happened. People that had lived in Germany just basically went away. They didn't want to stay in that country. So he went to the rabbi, and it took him many years to be able to become Jewish, because from the whole conversion process, they really were strict with him because they didn't really believe that he really was serious about this. And he indeed was, and that's the reason why I'm here today, because he really put it to himself to make a change. He didn't want to be a part of that German society, German generation anymore.
Jews were not only victims, but they were actors in their own history. They created their own state. That was number one, so not this victim notion. I was initially triggered by guilt and going there very guilt-stricken, but I learned that the same people that were the victims of my father's generation were very open-minded and almost non-judgmental towards me, receiving me as a person and respecting me as a person. I represent the worst enemy that they ever encountered in their history. So I asked myself, what makes these people so strong, so faithful, so have their own identity, their own self-esteem, that they have overcome this horrendous part of their history and moving forward. And that set in motion a process of studying and learning and encountering Jews in Germany, which was extremely difficult because there were only about 25,000 Jews organized in Jewish communities in Germany. And working my way through the encounters and the study of Judaism towards Judaism, and 7 years later, I became a Jew.
Without a Jewish identity, I would not be attending a Jewish school. I wouldn't be the same person that I am today. Because of everything that I've learned in Hillel and in Lehrman Community Day School, it has really shaped me as a person and through his story.
Miami Beach, Florida is home to one of the most recognizable Holocaust memorials in the country. It is there that the participants from Miami, including Bernd and his daughter, met in preparation for this year's march. Bernd spoke to the group about his life.
My background is a little bit different than yours.
It's really important that I'm going on this march because I know that the survivors, they're slowly dying out, their generation is slowly dying out, and it's really important to be able to go on that trip with them and experience the camps with them. And also with my dad, he has a different perspective and he can share that perspective with me.
Of course it is an experience to bond and to build bridges between the past and the present.
The whole reason for going on this march is to teach people that we're a Jewish community, we're a Jewish nation, and we're standing up for injustice, and we're not going to let this happen again. Basically the whole march, that's the whole mantra, that's what they're trying to teach us. I think it's important because it basically shows how we've persevered, how we've gone from the darkest of darks, from the ashes of the crematoria, but now we've created a Jewish state, and we've been able to live together as a Jewish people and create a community and create a culture. And just because we were perpetrated, and just because Hitler did everything that he did to us, what Israel stands for is our ability to bounce back and continue with our lives.
Auschwitz is not a museum. It's a warning sign what human beings are capable to do to other human beings. Worldwide, anytime, anyhow, anywhere. What happened is not a Jewish-German thing. Germans killed Jews. Technically it may be correct, but from the content it's incorrect. Human beings are able to inflict unspeakable brutality, harm on other human beings. In any setting, from one-on-one violence to small groups to nations. If we don't learn from the past, then we will be condemned to repeat it.